As SOAWatch, we gather in the diverse traditions of nonviolence, with respect for the right to self-determination of oppressed peoples and communities. Together, we envision a day in which a culture of peace and justice, a respect for Earth will prevail, where all people will live together free from oppression.
Colombia now has over 5 million internally displaced persons, the highest number in the world after Syria. The majority of the displaced are indigenous and Afro-Colombians, and many of them were living close to natural resources or other land sought by oligarchs and multinational corporations.
We have an open and ongoing armed conflict
donde día a día vivimos el secuestro, masacre, violación de los derechos humanos, militarización,
where day after day we are faced with massacres, kidnapping, disappearances, human rights violations.
Donde día a día familias son destruidas, donde niños quedan solos, donde mujeres son maltratadas.
Where day in and day out families are destroyed, children are left orphaned and alone, and women are abused.
Pero frente a eso hay un pueblo que resiste.
But there are people in resistance.
Y por eso estamos aquí,
and that
porque
is why we're here
resistimos.
today, because we resist.
Porque creemos que otro mundo es posible.
Because we believe another world is possible.
Y es el mensaje que queremos traer en esta mañana.
And that is the message I want to bring to you this morning.
Que podamos unir nuestras fuerzas por cambiar este mundo.
That we can unite our forces to change this world.
Que podamos entender que ningún ejército en el mundo defiende la paz.
That we can all understand that no army in the entire world defends peace.
In Brazil, mass mobilizing to reveal the FIFA mafia has changed the discourse of the World Cup. Brazil's investment of $14 billion in the World Cup has burst to the surface the anger of the masses, for whom the stadiums mean hunger and demolished homes. The FBI has furthered suppression of World Cup opposition by training the Brazilian riot police. Yet, resistance prevails. The displacement of low-income communities to make way for World Cup projects and the mass protests in the streets of Brazil were captured to tape and circulated around the world. Through their mobilization, resistors have overcome the odds, generating discussion about the economic empire by militarized state violence. As the struggle for fair economies continues, we cry,
no más, no more, we must stop the dirty war. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry out, no más, no more.
In the Dominican Republic, Canadian mining giants Goldcorp and Barrick Gold have taken advantage of the lack of strong mining regulation to ram through the Pueblo Viejo gold mine. President Danilo Medina has called the low returns from the project to the Dominican people and high profits gained by the international corporations as unacceptable. Those who live near the mine go further to demand its closure. Displaced communities subjected to its pollution are on the front lines of the anti-mining movement's fierce challenge to the inequities of free trade policies in the country. In solidarity with those communities directly impacted by mega development projects, we cry.
No más, no more, we must stop the dirty war. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry.
apart by violence backed by the United States during 36 years of armed conflict and U.S. intervention. These wounds continue to shape the lives of Guatemalans today as the steadfast determination of the ruling class to keep their power struggles against those searching for healing through truth-seeking and justice. The United States also continues to be a powerful force of intervention in the country by shamefully aiding the remilitarization of the country and supporting President Otto Pérez Molina, a graduate from the School of the Americas, who has been implicated in past and recent human rights violations against communities in resistance. One of those activists murdered this year in the fight for self-determination and her community's right to consultation is Marilyn Topacio Reynoso, a brave 19-year-old woman at the front lines of the anti-mining movement. Alongside those who seek truth and justice, we cry,
No más, no más, no más. We must stop the dirty war. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry out. No más, no more.
In Ecuador and in many parts of the world, environmental and human rights violations by United States transnational companies continue with great impunity. In fact, many of our pensions plans are invested in such blood-stained investments. Greed generated by capitalism has long been a driving force for U.S. foreign policy. Chevron has refused to pay reparations for leaving its over 600 oil pits, exposing the Amazon rainforest, which has left irreparable damages, severe human mutations and deaths, as well as polluted water sources used mostly by indigenous communities. In Burma, Chevron is known for wrapping those in resistance to oil extraction.
U.S. border, the militarization continues to punish those escaping the repressive military and economic operations implemented by the United States. In recent years, militarization of the border has meant predator drones and surveillance equipment to punish those migrating northward. Even after the brutal beating and killing of Anastasio Hernandez Rojas near San Diego in 2010, and despite well-documented cases of systematic practices by Border Patrol agents to strip our sisters and brothers of their dignity and humanity, the death toll rises. The scrutiny of migrant stories by the general population and the disproportionate exclusion of migrants from Latin America and the Caribbean in the U.S. and Canada has severely fractured our global community. We echo the strong voices of migrants fighting for justice when we cry.
No más, no more. We must stop the dirty war. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry out. No más, no more.
In the Middle East, the proxy wars in Iraq and Syria are marked by U.S. interference without accountability mechanisms. In the fervor to top the Syrian government, it is undeniable that ISIS received arms, money, and training by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, with at least the tacit approval of the United States. In the first month of U.S. airstrikes in Syria, more than 500 so-called jihadists have died, as well as 32 civilians. Yet the process of verifying the identities of the dead and their crimes has not been detailed, nor transparent to the public. On 23rd, at least 5 children and 2 adults were killed by a Tomahawk cruise missile in Kafr Daryan, Syria, a place with no military target. The owner of the missile has not been held accountable for its actions. This is a pattern we are seeing wherever the U.S. military training is involved. Impunity allotted to the U.S. for its actions in the Middle East echoes the lack of accountability of the Pentagon for the School of the Americas. In the name of those who have fallen victim to U.S.-generated terrorism, and in the name of the resilience of the masses, we cry.
No más, no more. We must stop the dirty war. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry out. No más, no more.
In Lumpkin, Georgia, the largest for-profit migration prison rips families apart and conceals loved ones behind walls made to break their dignity. Segregating those branded as unwanted behind bars is an all too common practice in the United States. where 2.4 million people are held in corporate, state, and federally funded cages. What must be acknowledged is that many of the migrants are displaced due to the economic and political agenda of the United States. As long as the criminalization and warehousing of entire communities continues, we cry.
No more, we must stop the dirty wars. Compañeros, compañeras, we cry out. No más, no more.
Emil Bustamante.
Presente. Bernabé Landa Verde, 27 years old. Presente.
Father Roy Bourgeois and others started this movement, not knowing they were starting a movement by fasting here. We walked into Fort Benning on Friday, and we had the lucky happenstance of Father Roy being here at the gate as we walked in. And with his usual great enthusiasm and deep joy, he welcomed us, told us a bit of the history, and reminded us that from the beginning, though they weren't starting a movement, they didn't know they were starting a movement, they knew that they were doing something steeped deeply in nonviolence. Mahatma Gandhi says, good things happen slowly. And perhaps we feel 25 years and still the School of Americas operates. But in 25 years, these streets have been filled, and we have learned from SOAWatch. They have taught us the beautiful lesson of nonviolence and the awakening of the power within each of us and within our community. And we carry that out from here, and we bring it back each year. And this is the power of transformation of our own hearts and minds. And when that happens, the hearts and minds of those around us. The School of Americas will close. Thank you.